Department of Linguistics at University of Lucknow. He has served as reader in Department of Linguistics in KM Institute of Indian Linguistics, which is a part of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University, Agra. He has also served as an assistant professor at Department of Linguistics and Banaras Hindu University, and lecturer at MS University, Baroda, and lecturer of Malayalam in SRLC, Central Institute of Indian Language, Mysore. Professor Shri Kumar has also worked as a senior project scientist in a machine translation project at IIT Kanpur. His area of interest is comparative syntax, language typology, morphology, semantics, especially of Malayalam language and all the Indian languages in general. Professor has been member of Board of Studies at several universities, University of Kashmir, Dravidian University, Banaras Hindu University, Central Institute of India, Agra, and he's also editor of International Journal of Dravidian Linguistics from 2016 onward. Professor got his PhD in linguistics from Osmania University in 1992. Professor has about 50 national and international publications to his credit, and he has also presented about 50 research papers in national and international conference in India and abroad. Professor, it's my privilege that you are here to address our participants, and I'm sure that they are going to benefit from your lecture a lot. And the professor is taking a very important topic, which is very, very important for the second and third language learners, that is phonetics and phonology, the science of speech sounds. Professor, thank you very much for accepting our invitation to deliver a lecture in this program. I thank you on behalf of the Central Institute of Indian Languages, Mysore, as well as Navodaya Vidyalaya Samiti. Thank you so much, Professor. Over to you.
Thank you, Pankaj. It's my privilege to accept your offer to give a talk in this series. I would share my screen. Okay, I understand that most of you, all of you are teachers in teaching Malayalam as a second language and third language at Navodaya schools. But linguistics is an important field from the language teaching point of view. In linguistics, we deal with the structure of language. So different languages have different differences in the structure. So therefore, while teaching a language as a second language or a third language, it is imperative that you understand the differences that those languages would have with respect to your own language. So therefore, understanding appreciation of linguistics is a necessity if you want to take language teaching seriously, particularly when it is second language or third language. So today I will be presenting to you, some ideas about phonetics and phonology. This is about sounds. Language has different levels, as you know. The largest unit we would deal with are sentences. Sentences have meanings, so therefore semantics would deal with it. And if you look at sentences or words in language, they will be consisting of sounds as the primary units. That is, the basic units which compose words or sentences are sounds. So therefore, the first element in a sentence or word would be the sound. So in order to study sounds, you need to look at phonetics. So therefore, I will be sharing the screen with you. I have some screen PowerPoint presentation for you. Can you all see ഇത് കാണാൻ പറ്റുമോ? നിങ്ങൾക്ക് കാണുന്നുണ്ടോ?
Yes, sir.
കാണാം അല്ലേ? ഫോണറ്റിക്സ് ആൻഡ് ഫോണോളജിയെ പറ്റിയാണ്. അതായത് ഫോണറ്റിക്സും ഫൊണീമിക്സും. ഫോണോളജിക്ക് നേരത്തെ ആൾക്കാർ ഫൊണീമിക്സ് എന്നായിരുന്നു പേര് കൊടുത്തിരുന്നത്. ഇപ്പോൾ സാധാരണ ആൾക്കാർ അതിനെ ഫൊണീമിക്സ് എന്നാണ് പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ സ്പീച്ച് സൗണ്ട്സിന്റെ സ്റ്റഡിക്ക് രണ്ട് വശങ്ങളാണ് ഉള്ളത്. ഒന്ന് ഭാഷകളിലെ സൗണ്ട്സ് എന്തൊക്കെയാണെന്നുള്ളതാണ് അറിയേണ്ടത്. ഇപ്പൊ ഭാഷകളിലെ സൗണ്ടിന് എന്തൊക്കെയാണ് പ്രത്യേകതകളുള്ളത്, അതൊക്കെ ഒരു വശമാണ്. പിന്നെ വേറെ ഒരു വശം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഭാഷയിലുള്ള ധ്വനികൾ, അത് ഈ എപ്രകാരമാണ് ഓരോ ഭാഷയിലും ഉപയോഗപ്പെടുന്നത്. അതായത് ഒരു വ്യവസ്ഥയുടെ ഏകകങ്ങളായിട്ട് ഓരോ ഭാഷയിലും ധ്വനികൾ പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്നത് എങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. അപ്പൊ ഇങ്ങനെ സൗണ്ട്സിന് രണ്ട് വശങ്ങളാണ് ഉള്ളത്. അതായത് ആദ്യത്തേത് ഭാഷയിലെ സൗണ്ട്സ് ഏതൊക്കെയാണ്, അതിന്റെ പ്രത്യേകതകൾ എന്തൊക്കെയാണ് എന്നൊക്കെയുള്ളത്, അത് ഫൊനറ്റിക്സിലാണ് സ്റ്റഡി ചെയ്യുന്നത്. രണ്ടാമത്തേത് സൗണ്ട്സ് ഒരു വ്യവസ്ഥയുടെ ഭാഗമായിട്ട് അതിന്റെ ഫങ്ഷൻസും, അതായത് ഓരോ ഭാഷയിലും എത്ര ധ്വനികളുണ്ട്, ധ്വനികൾ എങ്ങനെയാണ് പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്നത് എന്നൊക്കെയുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളാണ് ഫൊണീമിക്സോ ഫൊണോളജിയിലോ എന്തോ പഠിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. അപ്പം പിന്നെ വേറൊരു കാര്യം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഫൊനറ്റിക്സില് സൗണ്ട്സിനെ പറ്റി നമ്മൾ പഠിക്കുമ്പോൾ ഓരോ ഭാഷ എന്താ പറയുക, സൗണ്ട് ഇറ്റ്സ് നോട്ട് നെസസറി ദാറ്റ് ഇറ്റ് ഷുഡ് ബി pertaining to a particular language. We are concerned about sounds as sounds available in any language. For example, if you are studying about per, you would be trying to understand how per will be articulately. That is, in order to articulate it, ഉച്ചാരണം ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ ധ്വനിക്ക് എന്തൊക്കെയാണ് പ്രത്യേകതകൾ, അതാണ് ഫൊനറ്റിക്സിൽ നോക്കുന്നത്. ഫൊനറ്റിക്സ് ഒരു ജനറലൈസ്ഡ് സ്റ്റഡിയാണ്. അത് ഒരു എന്താ പറയുക, ഇറ്റ്സ് നോട്ട് കൺസേൺ വിത്ത് എനി പെർട്ടിക്കുലർ ലാംഗ്വേജ് ഇൻ പെർട്ടിക്കുലർ. യു വിൽ ബി ലുക്കിംഗ് അറ്റ് sounds in languages in general, like pa will be available in several languages, so therefore you will be trying to learn about how the sound, irrespective of whether it is Malayalam or Kannada or English, for example, how that sound will be articulated. So such kinds of things would be part of phonetics. Whereas in phonology, it is particular to languages. That is, each language has its own sound system. So therefore, you would be trying to understand what is the sound system in each language. That is, what are the sounds which are functional. Okay. First I will take up phonetics. Phonetics ആണ് ഞാൻ ആദ്യം നോക്കുന്നത്. Phonetics സൗണ്ട്സ് പ്രൊഡ്യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഓർഗൻസ്, അവയവങ്ങൾ ഏതൊക്കെയാണെന്ന് ഉള്ളത്, പിന്നെ അത് ഓരോന്നും തമ്മിൽ എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഇന്ററാക്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നതെന്നും, പിന്നെ അതിന്റെ സ്പീച്ച് സൗണ്ട്സിന്റെ സാധാരണയുള്ള പ്രത്യേകതകൾ എന്തൊക്കെയാണ്, അതിന്റെ പ്രോപ്പർട്ടീസ് എന്തൊക്കെയാണ്, അതൊക്കെയാണ് അതിനകത്ത് നമ്മൾ നോക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പം സൗണ്ട്സ് ഫോർ പ്രൊഡ്യൂസിങ് സൗണ്ട്സ് in phonetics, first of all, we see that the first thing that you need to have is a moving stream of air. For producing any kind of sound, you need to have a moving stream of air. The source for this airstream in human languages is the lungs. That is, the lungs, as you know, it's a muscular organ. It can either contract or expand. So as a result of contraction or expansion, the lung either takes air in or it can push air out. So this is something we do normally when we breathe, right? നമ്മള് ശ്വാസോച്ഛ്വാസങ്ങള്, അതായത് ശ്വാസനിശ്വാസങ്ങള് നമ്മൾ ശ്വസിക്കുന്ന രീതി സമയത്ത് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു പ്രവൃത്തിയാണ്. അപ്പം ശ്വാസം നമ്മൾ ഉള്ളിലോട്ട് വലിക്കുമ്പോൾ ലങ്സ് എക്സ്പാൻഡ് ചെയ്യും, പിന്നെ നമ്മൾ പുറത്തോട്ട് വിടുമ്പോൾ അത് കോൺട്രാക്ട് ചെയ്യും. അപ്പം പക്ഷെ സാധാരണ രീതിയിൽ ശ്വസിക്കുന്ന രീതിയും പിന്നെ സംസാരിക്കുന്ന രീതി, അതായത് സംസാരിക്കുമ്പോൾ അതിനെ എന്താ ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്ന രീതിയിൽ ഒരു വ്യത്യാസമുണ്ട്. അതായത് while talking or while producing speech, it is the air that is expelled out, which is made an active activity. You try to while breathing in is a conscious act, and breathing out is just a normal consequence of having breathed in. But when you produce speech, breathing out is made a conscious effort. It is made a conscious act. So that is why people like Abercrombie say that speech is modified breathing. That is, you speak normally using the air that you are expelling out. Of course, you can speak using air which is inhaled also, but then you cannot prolong your speech for a very long time using the air which you are inhaling. Now, so therefore, inhaling and expelling air, that produces two kinds of air streams. One is known as ingressive air stream, and the other one is known as egressive air stream. So while in normal speech you utilize egressive air stream for speech production. Ingressive air stream is also utilized in some languages for producing a couple of sounds, but their numbers are very few of course, in Malayalam, as far as Malayalam is concerned, or in Indian languages in general, excepting, for example, Sindhi, we don't use ingressive sounds produced with ingressive air stream. Yeah. So the principal source for producing any kind of speech sounds is the egressive air stream. The egressive air stream is the air stream that is produced by expelling the air from the lungs. Then you have articulators in the oral cavity, which interact with one another. There are two kinds of articulators. One is mobile, so that is known as active articulator, and the other one is immobile, and that is known as passive articulator. All the active articulators are located on the floor of the oral cavity. അതായത് ഉച്ചാരണ അവയവങ്ങളിൽ രണ്ട് തരങ്ങളാണ്. ഒന്ന് ചലിക്കുന്നതാണ്, മറ്റേത് ചലിക്കാത്തതും. ചലിക്കുന്ന ഉച്ചാരണ അവയവങ്ങളെല്ലാം ഈ വായ്ക്കകത്ത് ഫ്ലോറിലാണ്, അതായത് താഴെ, അതായത് നാവും, lower lip and so on, or lower teeth and so on. And ചലിക്കാത്ത ഉച്ചാരണ അവയവങ്ങൾ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് they are situated on the roof of the oral cavity. അതായത് upper lip, upper teeth, and then the parts which are located beyond it. So I will come to that in a moment. Yeah. So yeah, taking the articulators, you have a convention of naming the place of articulation. Okay. So yeah, as I told you, there are two kinds of articulators, active and passive articulators. The active articulators are situated on the floor of the oral cavity, and the passive articulators are those which are situated on the roof of the oral cavity. Now, for producing consonants in general, what you do, you try to approximate the active articulator towards the passive articulator. Uh, and depending on where the active articulator, or depending on what is the active articulator and what is the passive articulator towards which it will approximate or it will move towards, you get place names for the different kinds of consonants. So for classifying consonants in general, their place names are very crucial. They give you one means for classifying the consonants. Generally for producing any kinds of consonants, you try to create a stricture or closure within the oral cavity, and the stricture is produced by the approximation of the active articulator towards the passive articulator. അതായത് വ്യഞ്ജനങ്ങളുടെ ഉച്ചാരണത്തിന് വായ്ക്കകത്ത് ഒരു തടസ്സം ഉണ്ടാക്കുക, എവിടെയെങ്കിലും ആ തടസ്സം എവിടെയും ആവാം. അപ്പം ചലിക്കുന്ന ഉച്ചാരണ അവയവം ഏത് ചലിക്കാത്ത ഉച്ചാരണ അവയവത്തിന്റെ അടുത്താണ് ചെന്ന് സ്പർശത്തിന്റെ ഒരവസ്ഥയിലേക്ക് എത്തുന്നതെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ അതനുസരിച്ചാണ് ഓരോ വ്യഞ്ജനങ്ങൾക്കും അതിന്റെ സ്ഥാനപ്പേര് നൽകപ്പെടുന്നത്. സോ സാധാരണയായി ധ്വനികൾ വ്യഞ്ജന ധ്വനികൾക്ക് കൊടുക്കാവുന്ന പ്ലേസ് ഓഫ് ആർട്ടിക്കുലേഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഇവയൊക്കെയാണ്. Of course, I have given this in Malayalam script. Of course, you should allow me the liberty of misspellings in this. My software had some problems, so it doesn't produce that is the mridu kosham, that is the voiced aspirate sound. Okay, so places of articulation starting from the front are, one is bilabial or ostium. Ostium is produced by approximating the lower lip against the upper lip. So that produces consonants like p, b, and m. P, b, and m. These are ostiums or bilabials, because they involve raising the lower lip against the upper lip. The second place of articulation is dentiostium or labiodental. In these sounds, the lower lip is raised against the upper teeth. So that would produce sounds like f, v, and so on. Okay. Then you have on the roof of the mouth, immediately behind the upper teeth, you have a raising kind of curve, which is known as alveolar ridge. In Malayalam, we call it as versium. So that in order to produce versiya vyanjanangal, you need to raise the tongue and make it touch the alveolar region. So the part of the tongue which can easily approximate towards the alveolar ridge is either the tip of the tongue or the blade of the tongue. That is നാവിന്റെ തുമ്പ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നാവിന്റെ തുമ്പിനോട് അടുത്ത് ഉള്ള സ്ഥലം, അത് ഫ്രണ്ടില്, അഗ്രമല്ല, അത് ചെന്ന് വശ്യസ്ഥാനത്ത് സ്പർശിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ, അതിനോട് അടുക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ അത് വസ്യങ്ങളായ വ്യഞ്ജനങ്ങളെ ഉണ്ടാക്കും. So yeah, so vasyas are sounds like in Malayalam you have l or s or t. Yeah, I think I have missed out one. In between there is also another sound, that is dantya. Yeah, after dantiostium you will also have a sound called dantya, that is dental. In order to produce dentals, what you do is you raise the tip of the tongue and hold it in contact with the upper teeth. So that would give the sounds like the, the, and n. The as in tamara and so on, or the as in delam, and so on. Okay, so dantya involves approximating the tip of the tongue against the tip, or it could be the blade of the tongue against the upper teeth. Then comes vasya. Vasya is alveolar, as I have already told you that. Then comes beyond the alveolar ridge, you have a dome-shaped part of the roof of the mouth. Till about the middle of the roof of the mouth, starting from starting from beyond the alveolar ridge, it is a hard part, so therefore it is known as hard palate or kathora talu, you can call it. The part of the tongue which can easily reach out for that position or that part is the front of the tongue. That is the part of the tongue which extends till about the middle of the tongue. So that can be easily made to touch the hard palate. So the sounds which are produced by touching the front of the tongue, that is jivhagram. Jivhagram ഉയർത്തിയിട്ട് ഹാർട്ട് പാലറ്റിനോട് സ്പർശിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ അതിനോട് അടുക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ ഉണ്ടാകുന്ന ധ്വനികൾക്ക് നമ്മൾ പറയുന്നത് താലവ്യം എന്നാണ്. So those are known as talavyas, and examples for talavyas are sounds like ch, j, and ny. Cha, ja, and nya. Then you have another sound, that is the mudhanya. Mudhanyam, for producing mudhanyam, what you do is the tongue will be folded back, and it is the under edge or the part underneath the tongue which is made to approximate against the roof of the mouth. So that would produce sounds which are known as retroflex or mudhanyas, or mudhani. In Malayalam we call it as mudhanyam. So mudhanyangal are examples like sounds like t, d, and na. Okay. Then comes I have already told you about talavyas, which are sounds produced by making the front of the tongue, that is jivhagram, against the hard palate, ch, j, and ny. Then on the roof of the mouth, the part which is available at the back is known as velam or soft palate, mrudu talu. So the part of the tongue that can easily raise up against it is back of the tongue. That is the back part of the tongue. So the back of the tongue, if it raises and makes contact with the soft palate, the sounds that are produced will be known as velar consonants, and in Malayalam they are known as kantyas or kantingal. The examples for kantingal are the consonants like k, g, and ng. K, g, and ng. Okay. Then we have the Aksharamala. In the Aksharamala also you see that the Aksharamala is the alphabet series in Malayalam or in most of our languages. So in that also the consonants are arranged according to the അക്ഷരവർഗങ്ങളിൽ അക്ഷരങ്ങളുടെ ക്രമീകരണം ഉച്ചാരണ സമയത്തെ സ്വരതന്ത്രികൾ തമ്മിലുള്ള സ്ഥിതിയും ശ്വാസവായുവിന്റെ തോതും അനുസരിച്ചാണ്. That is, this is the scheme. This is a kind of general structure of the consonantal arrangement in Aksharamala in our languages. So in this, linguistically speaking, the first classification is based on the state of glottis, that is സ്വരതന്ത്രികൾ, that is in തൊണ്ടയിൽ സ്വരതന്ത്രികൾ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞൊരു കവാടം പോലുണ്ട്. അപ്പം അതിൽ വോക്കൽ കോഡ്സ് ആണ് കവാടങ്ങളായിട്ട് ഉള്ളത്. അപ്പൊ വോക്കൽ കോഡ്സ് വൈബ്രേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നു അതോ വൈബ്രേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നില്ലയോ അതനുസരിച്ച് സൗണ്ട്സിനെ അപ്പൊ രണ്ട് രീതിയിലാണ്. ഒന്നുകിൽ അത് വൈബ്രേറ്റ് ചെയ്യും, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അത് വൈബ്രേറ്റ് ചെയ്യില്ല. അപ്പൊ അതായത് അത് തുറന്നിരിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ അത് ഗ്ലോട്ടിസ്, അതിന്റെ വോക്കൽ കോഡ്സിന്റെ ഇടയിലെ സ്ഥലത്ത് നമ്മൾ ഗ്ലോട്ടിസ് എന്നാണ് പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ ഗ്ലോട്ടിസ് ഓപ്പണുമായിരിക്കാം, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അത് വൈബ്രേഷനിലായിരിക്കാം. അതായത് സ്വരതന്ത്രികൾ വൈബ്രേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാം. അപ്പൊ സ്വരതന്ത്രികൾ വൈബ്രേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുകയാണെങ്കിൽ അതിനെ പറയുന്ന വോയിസ് എന്നാണ് പറയുന്നത്. ധ്വനികൾ സ്വരതന്ത്രികൾ വൈബ്രേറ്ററി സ്റ്റേറ്റിൽ ആണെങ്കിൽ അത് വോയിസ് സൗണ്ട് സെഗ്മെന്റ്സ് എന്നാണ് പറയപ്പെടുന്നത്. അതേസമയം ഗ്ലോട്ടിസ് തുറന്നിരിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ, അതായത് നമ്മൾ സാധാരണയായി ശ്വസിക്കുന്ന സമയത്ത് ഗ്ലോട്ടിസ് തുറന്നായിരിക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ അതായത് വോക്കൽ കോഡ്സ് വേർപെട്ടിരിക്കും. അപ്പൊ അങ്ങനത്തെ സ്ഥിതിയാണ് വ്യഞ്ജനങ്ങൾ ഉച്ചരിക്കുന്ന സമയത്ത് ഉണ്ടായിരിക്കുന്നെങ്കിൽ അപ്പം അതിന്റെ സ്റ്റേറ്റ് ഓഫ് ഗ്ലോട്ടിസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് വോയിസ്ലെസ് ആണ്. അതായത് so state of glottis could be either voiceless or voiced. Nasals is the fifth segment in this arrangement. Those are of course voiced essentially. Then another classification in the Aksharamala is whether the column of sounds are unaspirated or aspirated. So in both the series, in both the columns, that is voiceless and voiced, for both you have two kinds of sounds. That is, if you take voiceless sounds, you have unaspirated and aspirated sounds. So in Malayalam they are given the name kharam and adhikharam. That is, k is kharam and kh is adhikharam. And voice segments are sounds like g and gh. They also would be either unaspirated or aspirated. In Malayalam, of course, there is not much use for voiced consonants. That is, they are not functional. So you can see that in traditional Malayalam grammatical terminology, the names for each of these, linguistically speaking, we see that there could be voiceless sounds which could be either unaspirated or aspirated, and similarly voiced consonants could be there which could be unaspirated or aspirated, like g is unaspirated and gh is aspirated. In Malayalam terminology, you see that for voiceless sounds you are calling the unaspirated sound as kharam, whereas the aspirated sounds are known as adhikharam. But when it comes to voiced consonants, unaspirated are said to be mridu, and aspirated, voiced aspirated are said to be ghosham. Now this is because of a phonological reason that Malayalam, for Malayalam functionally, you have only voiceless sounds as functional consonants. So therefore the aspirated version of the voiceless sounds are just sounds which are phonetically speaking produced by prolongation of the voicelessness of the sound concerned. So phonetically speaking, Malayalam terms appear to go with the strictly phonetic kind of explanation rather than phonemic kind of explanation. Phonemically, in most of the languages apart from Malayalam, you have a phonemic distinction between sounds which are voiceless and voiced, and so For each of them, you have unaspirated as well as aspirated versions. That is, you will have k, k, and g, g. Those will be functional. So therefore, there you need to have, there you may have, that is, if you follow the Sanskritic tradition, these same things would be said to be something like Alpa Prana and Mahaprana. Alpa Prana and Mahaprana would be obtaining in both voices as well as voice sound segments. But here you see that Malayalam grammarians have prescribed a different nomenclature. When it is voices, you see that the unaspirated version is known as kharam. That is k, ch, t, t, p. They are kharams. And whereas k, ch, k, ch, th, th, and p, those are said to be adhikharams. And for voice they have for voice sounds they have voice consonants, they have invented a different type kind of nomenclature. The voice unaspirated are said to be mridu, whereas voiced aspirated are said to be ghosham. Then, then for consonants, for describing consonants, one basis is the state of glottis while articulating them. That is whether they are voiced or voices. That is depending on whether the vocal cords are involved in vibration or not. You have the distinction between voices and voice sounds. That is, the consonants, if they involve, glottis in vibration, they are said to be voiced, and if the glottis is open, they are said to be voiceless. Then you have the place of articulation for describing the different consonants. So just now we have gone through all the places of articulation. They are oshtyam, dantyam, dantyushtyam, talavyam, and kantyam and mudhanyam, for example. Then there is also another aspect we need to deal with while taking care of consonantal description. That is the manner of articulation. That is the kind of stricture or the kind of closure that is adopted by the different articulators. That is, what is the kind of closure that the active articulator will be making with the passive articulator. Okay. As I told you, when you produce a consonant in the oral cavity, somewhere that is in the place of articulation, right? Place of articulations are usually named after the passive articulator which is involved. So at the place of articulation, what is the kind of closure that the active articulator is making with the passive articulator? What is the kind of contact that the active articulator makes with the passive articulator? That gives you the different manners of articulation. That will, I am sure, as we go with the different manners of articulation, as we try to understand the different manners of articulation, we can understand, get an idea about it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. One kind of manner of articulation is where the active articulator would be making complete closure with the passive articulator. The active articulator would be making a closure of complete contact with the passive articulator. That would be said to be, in English they are said to be stops or plosives, and in Malayalam we call them as sparsham. That is, active articulator passive articulatorമായിട്ട് പൂർണ്ണ സ്പർശത്തിന്റെ സ്ഥിതിയിൽ എത്തുകയാണെങ്കിൽ അതിനെ നമ്മൾ സ്പർശങ്ങളാണെന്നാണ് പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ സ്പർശങ്ങൾക്ക് പല ഉദാഹരണങ്ങളുമുണ്ട്. അതായത് വേറെ വേറെ ഉച്ചാരണ സ്ഥാനങ്ങളുടെ നമുക്ക് സ്പർശങ്ങൾ കാണാം. ഓഷ്ട്യങ്ങളാണെങ്കിൽ പ, ബ ആൻഡ് മ. ഈ മൂന്നെണ്ണവും പൂർണ്ണ സ്പർശങ്ങളാണ്. പൂർണ്ണ തടസ്സം കൊണ്ട് ഉച്ചരിക്കപ്പെടുന്ന വ്യഞ്ജനങ്ങളാണ്. അപ്പൊ അതിന് സ്പർശികൾ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ സ്പർശങ്ങൾ എന്നാണ് പറയാവുന്നത്. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ദന്ത്യങ്ങൾ ത, ദ യും നയും, ഈ മൂന്നും സ്പർശങ്ങളാണ്. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ച, ജ and ñ. These are also, as far as Malayalam is concerned, they are sparshams. And then k, g and ng, those are also sparsham because വ്യഞ്ജനങ്ങൾക്കും കണ്ഠ്യത്തിൽ back of the tongue will be making a complete closure against the soft palate or the ilam. So therefore they are all sparsham in their manner of articulation. Then another manner of articulation is the sorry. Yeah. Then another kind of manner of articulation is where the active articulator will be approximating towards the passive articulator, but then it doesn't make complete contact with it. It would be held close to it. So then what would happen is that the air is not completely blocked behind the closure. So the air will be able to pass out, but then it will the passage available for the air to pass out through the closure would be narrow. So therefore, it would result in friction in the air. So the sounds which are produced thereby would be said to be, in many in English we call them as fricatives because they involve turbulent airflow, because the air would be getting only a narrow passage between the articulators. So therefore it would involve turbulence or friction, audible friction in it. So therefore they are known as fricatives in English. In Malayalam they are said to be ardhasparsham. That is partly, it's kind of partial closure, you can call it. Okay. So the name adopted in traditional Malayalam grammars is, these are said to be ardhasparsham. The examples for these, for the ardhasparsham in Malayalam are sounds like sh, sh, or s. Sh, sh, or s. Sh as in shalyam, or sh as in kashtam. So the sh which appears in kashtam is also a ardhasparsham. Okay. Then there is also another the next manner of articulation is a trivial one as far as Malayalam is concerned, or in the general grammatical treatments in Malayalam, they are not dealt with at all. But it is also definitely a different kind of sound. These I will call them as pashvigam. What happens is, in this kind of sound, within the oral cavity, in the front, the tongue would be making complete stricture, as in sparshangal. Sparshangalе pole thanne vaayile the frontile പൂർണ്ണ സ്പർശം ഉണ്ടാവും. പക്ഷെ നാക്കിന്റെ ഇരുഭാഗങ്ങളിൽ നിന്ന് വായു പോവാനുള്ള ഇടം കാണും. അപ്പം air will be escaping through the sides of the tongue. So therefore such sounds are said to be laterals in English. In Malayalam you can call them as pashvigam. So they involve that is to the that is laterally you have open space, so therefore air will be escaping through the laterally. Uh, so such sounds are sounds like l and l. Sounds like l and l. In Malayalam, of course, you have two sounds, l and l. Both are laterals. Then you have uh, r-like sounds, which are called as raphum or ragarium. Uh, Raphum are sounds like sounds which are said to be tap sounds, or you can also call them as mm, yeah. Uh, there is also another name for it. One of the kinds of taps. Now, what is the difference between tap, trills, and stops? You may ask. So the difference is that in taps and trills, the movement of the active articulator or the approximation of the active articulator against the passive articulator is done very quickly. It is faster. It involves a faster movement in comparison to stops or spursions. Okay, so uh, so yeah, Refa kind of sounds. The contact will be only a single tap. The tongue will be, uh, you know, uh, quickly making a contact and reaching back for its initial position in Refum. Whereas in trill, you have a series of tappings involved. That is the difference between tap and trill. In tap, you will have a single hitting of the tongue against the passive articulator, whereas in trills, you will have a series of taps or more than one, contacts or more than one hitting against the passive articulator. So it is like something like r, r, r. Now in Malayalam, there is a the difference between tap and trill is functional. You can hear it very uh, uh, clearly in sounds in words like kara and kara, or para and para. So in para you have a refum, whereas in para you have a ra, which is known as trill, right? So there is also another kind, among refum, sometimes it need not be a tap also. It could be a simple, approximate kind of approximation. That is, there may not be any kind of actual heating involved. The tongue will be, just moving close to the passive articulator, but it will not establish any contact with it. Something like I can say something like karya, tarya. I cannot feel any kind of contact for the tongue against the passive articulator over there. Of course, I'm reaching towards the alveolar region, tarya. So that is also a possible kind of real sound. Then the final manner of articulation among for consonants is what is known as approximates. In approximates, the active articulator would be moving towards the passive articulator. It would be raised towards the passive articulator, but it keeps such a distance with it that it will not result in any kind of audible friction in the air as it passes out through it. That is, the active articulator would be approximating to the passive articulator, but then the kind of closure that you will adopt will be such that when the air passes between it, through it, it will not result in any kind of audible friction. That is, it will not result in any kind of sangharsha വായുവിൽ സംഘർഷം ഉണ്ടാകാൻ പാടില്ല. അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഉച്ചാരണ പ്രയത്നമാണെങ്കിൽ അതിനെ നമ്മൾ അപ്രോക്സിമേറ്റ് എന്നാണ് മലയാളത്തിൽ ഇംഗ്ലീഷിൽ പറയുന്നത്. മലയാളത്തിൽ അതിനുള്ള പേര് സാധാരണ സ്വൽപസ്പർശം എന്ന് പറയും. ഇതിന്റെ ഉദാഹരണങ്ങൾ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ യ, വ ഇങ്ങനത്തെ വ്യഞ്ജനങ്ങളാണ്. യ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ വ. പിന്നെ സ്വരങ്ങൾ, vowels, vowels, well, to produce vowels, you can feel it. In fact, when you produce a vowel, there is no articulatory structure involved, strictly speaking. That is the, we say that it is, for consonants, we say that they involve a structure of close approximation, and close approximation is understood to mean at least a kind of configuration of the, articulatory contact, where you may at least get some kind of friction in the air, that is air when it passes through it, right? So at least if audible friction is there in a consonant, then those will be said to be consonants. If you don't have any audible friction in the air when the air passes between the articulators involved, then they are said to be vowel-like. That is, in vowels generally you don't have any kind of contact between the articulators. Air will have a very free passage through the oral cavity, like a, e, u, a. So in all these vowels that you produce, you can feel that air is not blocked at all in the oral cavity. That is the, of course, the tongue will be involved in raising. Even then, as the air passes to the oral cavity, it doesn't, the air doesn't experience any kind of friction. It will be able to pass out very freely. So that is a very characteristic feature of vowels. That is, in vowel articulation, you have open articulation. So air will be having a very free kind of passage through the oral cavity. Then, of course, there are vowels of different kinds. So therefore, how do we classify them? In order to classify the vowels, you will be looking at what is the part of the tongue that gets raised. It could be either the front of the tongue or the back of the tongue. That is one aspect to it. That is the part of the tongue that is raised. And then what is the height to which the tongue raises within the oral cavity? That is also crucially a determining factor for classifying the different kinds of vowels. So vowel classification is usually given in this kind of format. It could be either the front or the back. That is, it could be the front part of the tongue which is involved, or it could be the back part of the tongue. Then the tongue heights are usually assumed to, for convenience sake, they usually, adopt 4 heights. One which is very close towards the, roof of the mouth. That will be said to be close or high, and one which is very low in the oral cavity, and that would be said to be either open or low. Then between close or between high and between low, you also have 2 more heights which are identified. One which is closer towards the high vowel, which will be known as half close, or mid, something like half high. I'm forgetting that terminology. Of course, I will just use the terminology close and open. So something which is close to something closer, which is closer to close, will be said to be half close, and something which is closer to open will be said to be half open. Okay, but then we need not go into all those details. Concerning Malayalam, if you are just looking at Malayalam, you'll see that there are vowels located at three heights. One is the closed vowels. Closed vowels, if it is produced with the front of the tongue, they are said to be, they are vowels like E. So for E, what you do is the front of the front part of the tongue is raised against the alveolar region, but then it doesn't establish a close contact with it. It will be in such a configuration that air will be able to pass out freely between it. And if the back of the tongue is raised very close towards the velum or soft palate, it would produce oo-like sound. Okay, so oo will be said to be back, closed vowel, closed back vowel. Then you have A, which will be said to be half closed, but it is a front vowel. So A is half closed front vowel, and O is this corresponding back vowel. So O will be said to be half closed back vowel. Then is there. It could be, it could be either front or back. Of course, there are vowels which could be front as well as back. But in Malayalam, it is a neutral vowel. You don't make the distinction between front and back vowel. You only have one A. Now, all these vowels, as far as Malayalam is concerned, you make a distinction of their length as well. That is, you have shorter and longer versions of these vowels. Okay, now I will introduce the other part of this lecture, that is the phonemics, that is how sounds are treated in a language. As I told you, yes, every language has got its own sound system. There is the number of sound units which are recognized in each language differ, and it is not necessary that the sound that you have, even though perceptually two sounds may be similar, that is, of course you can hear a pa in different languages, but then it's not necessary that all the pals that you hear are treated the same way in different languages. They may be functionally different, right? So in each language, what is the sound system that you have to know? So every language has its own sound system. So the units of the sound system in each language, they are said to be phonemes. In Malayalam, you can call them as phonemum. Swanimum. What is swanimum? Swanimum, or phoneme. These are sound units which are recognized by native speakers, or native speakers of a language recognize all the sound units which are pertinent to their language. That is, the sound units which are synonyms in their language. They can feel it, they can recognize it. In order to understand what phonemes are, in order to identify what are phonemes in your language, in linguistics, we make a very useful kind of test. That is, we try to identify what are minimal pairs, or pairs of words which differ in just one sound, right? We try to identify pairs of words which just differ in one sound, and such pairs of words should be different in meaning as well, right? For example, like if you take English words like pin and bin. Pin means something different and bin means something different. Now, the difference in those meanings follow from the fact that one of the words starts with p, whereas the other word starts with b. So then, if you take pin and bin, it is a minimal pair, that is, apart from p and b, the rest of the sounds are the same in to both the words. So therefore, pin and bin constitutes a minimal pair. So therefore, the minimal pair of pin and bin will identify p and b as functionally different sounds in English. So what that means is that the difference between p and b is a functional difference in English. They are different, they constitute different phonemes. It is the same thing like if you take the words like para and para. Para and para. Para and para are a minimal pair. So in para and para, only difference is between the sounds r versus r. So then given that you have para meaning something different and para meaning something different, the difference of r and r would be assumed to be constituting separate phonemes in Malayalam. Okay, so I can give you several examples for this. Minimal pairs, you can call them as Nunapada Yugalangal, that is the words which are രണ്ട് വാക്കുകൾ ഒരേപോലത്തെ രണ്ട് വാക്കുകൾ പക്ഷെ അത് രണ്ട് വാക്കുകൾ വെറും ഒരു ധ്വനിയിൽ വ്യത്യാസം ഉണ്ടാവണം അങ്ങനത്തെ വാക്കുകളെ നമ്മൾ ന്യൂനപദ യുഗളങ്ങൾ എന്ന് വേണമെങ്കിൽ പേരിടാം. അപ്പം പല്ല് കല്ല് ഈ രണ്ട് വാക്കുകൾ മിനിമൽ പേഴ്സ് ആണ്. അപ്പൊ ഈ പല്ലും കല്ലും മാത്രം നമ്മൾ നോക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ പേയും കേയും വ്യത്യസ്തമാണ് ഇവിടെ. പേയും കേയും അപ്പൊ നമ്മൾ രണ്ട് സ്വതന്ത്രങ്ങളായ സ്വനിമങ്ങൾ എന്ന് സങ്കല്പിക്കും. Similarly, kalla, talla, kalla and talla would identify k and th as separate phonemes. Similarly, I have given here charam and karam. So if you take charam and karam, it will, charam means something different and karam means something different. So, and a difference here rests on the fact that this in charam initially you have ch, whereas in karam initially you had k. So it would identify k and ch as separate phonemes in Malayalam, as far as Malayalam is concerned. And similarly, karam and param would mean different. So therefore, k and p are identified to be independent phonemes in Malayalam. Yeah. Then another thing about phonemes is that phonemes as a tool. Phonemes എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ശരിക്കും പറഞ്ഞാൽ അമൂർത്തങ്ങളായ ധ്വനി ഏകകങ്ങളാണ്. അതായത് നമ്മൾ അതിനെ മനസ്സിലാക്കും. നമ്മൾ കേൾക്കുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് ധ്വനികൾ കേൾക്കുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് ഏത് ധ്വനികളായിട്ടാണ് ഓരോ ധ്വനികൾ നമുക്ക് മനസ്സിലാവുന്നതെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ അതാണ് സ്വനിമങ്ങൾ. അപ്പൊ സ്വനിമങ്ങൾ അത് നമ്മുടെ എന്താ പറയുന്ന അണ്ടർസ്റ്റാൻഡിങ്ങിന്റെ ഭാഗമാണ്. ഇറ്റ്സ് സംതിങ് that you recognize, it's part of your understanding. So they are actually abstract, sound units. It doesn't have anything to do with the pronunciation. Of course, it has got to do it, but then it can turn out that the phonemes, when you articulate it at different positions in a word, they may have slight differences in their articulation, but you don't realize the differences that are involved in their articulation because they happen unconsciously for you. You're not aware of the differences that you're making. സ്വനിമങ്ങളെ വാക്കുകളുടെ പല സ്ഥാനങ്ങളിൽ വേറെ വേറെ സ്ഥാനങ്ങളിൽ നമ്മളിപ്പോൾ ഉച്ചരിക്കുമ്പോൾ അതിനകത്ത് ചെറുതായിട്ടുള്ള വ്യത്യാസങ്ങൾ കാണാം. അപ്പൊ പക്ഷെ ആ വ്യത്യാസങ്ങളെ പറ്റി നമ്മൾ ബോധവാന്മാരായിരിക്കില്ല, നമ്മളതിനെ പറ്റി അവെയർ അല്ല. പക്ഷേ മറ്റു ഭാഷക്കാർക്ക് അത് ഫങ്ഷണൽ വേരിയേഷൻ ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്ന കാര്യമാണെങ്കിൽ അവർക്കത് അനുഭവവേദ്യമായിരിക്കും, പക്ഷെ നമുക്കത് അനുഭവവേദ്യമല്ല. So generally speaking, it's not necessary that you utter a phoneme in your language the same way in different positions of the word, right? But as far as you are concerned, you would understand all those variant sounds as the same sound. That is because for your understanding, there is only one phoneme. Example for that, I will give you the example over here. In Malayalam, if you take the voice, of course, phonemically you only have got. That is one thing I would like to tell you. In Malayalam, if you take the Dravidian stock of words, the native stock of words, they will give you evidence for only voiceless consonants. You only have k, ch, t, k, ch, t, p. You don't have g, j, d, d, b as in your phonemic understanding. So now the sound t, when it occurs in the initial position, when in the word tabam, it will be articulated as t. But when the same sound is produced somewhere else in the word like pada, there it is heard as pada. In brackets over here, I have shown its phonetic articulation. Pada, you write it as pada, but then in your articulation, it will turn out to be pada. But you are not aware of this fact that when the phoneme th occurs in the between two vowels, that is in the non-initial position of the word, it is articulated as the. That is the same sound which you have in the Sanskrit word dalam. That is the initial position of dalam. You have the sound the, and that is the same articulation you adopt for producing the in the word pada. Or similarly, if you take in Kadi, ka is pronounced as ka, but when ka occurs in the non-initial part of the word non-initial position of the word, like in paga, here ka is no longer pronounced as ka. You don't say paka, you say paga. So this is so such variants of a phoneme, that is about which you are not conscious, right? Such variants are said to be allophones of the same phoneme. So whenever you have more than one pronunciational variants of the same phoneme, and if they occur in different positions of a word, that is, if the distribution is complementary with respect to one another, they are said to constitute allophones of the same phoneme. So in Malayalam, all the voiceless phonemes have got voiced variants which occur in non-initial positions of the word, like t, k, ch, t, t, p. That 5 series of sounds have a voice variant when you have them in a non-initial position of word, like paga. In paga, initial position you have pa, but when the same pa occurs in the within the word, that is when it is surrounded by vowels, right? It becomes tabam. But then, of course, when these sounds undergo doubling, ടിപ്പ് ഉണ്ടാകുമ്പോൾ അതിന്റെ ഉച്ചാരണം അതേപോലെ തന്നെ നിൽക്കും. അപ്പം അക്കം, പക്കം, when it is doubled, it is we call it as gemination. It remains as p, appam, attam. It is not addam. It is not adam. It is it's not addam. It is attam. So therefore, each of these voices, consonantal phonemes in Malayalam have got allophones which are voiced. So voicing in Malayalam is allophonic. It is not phonemic. It is not like Hindi, for example. In Hindi, pal and bal are different words, and the difference arises from the fact that in pal you have the voices bilabial, and in bal you have a voice bilabial. Of course, in Malayalam also you have all these Sanskritic words, but then only when you write those Sanskritic words you adopt those Indo-Aryan kind of phonological classification of sounds. Otherwise, you generally use the Dravidian kind of phonology for representing sounds with their graphemic representations, or that is the varnas. Okay. Now in the Malayalam, just one more thing I thought I will tell you about is this thing, that is in the Malayalam grammatical tradition, for consonant for manners of articulation, they identify only three kinds of manners of articulation. One is Sparshangal, and the other one is Madhyamangal, and the third one is Ushmakal. Now, this classification, that is Sparshangal, Madhyamangal, and Ushmakal, this is based on phonological, classification. That is Sparshangal are k, ch, t, t, p. These are the stops in Malayalam. That is, all these sounds are considered as stops in Malayalam, and they have been identified with the manner of articulation as Sparshangal. That is, they involve complete closure. And the reason why all these five series of sounds are held together as Sparshangal is because they all, obey the same phonological rules. They have when they are produced in word initial position, they are voiceless, but when they are produced in the intervocalic position between the vowels, the intervocalic, what I mean is that between vowels, if these are situated, these sounds would be voiced in articulation. That is, they have voiced allophones when they are placed intervocalically. Of course, there is also another place where they become voiced, that is when they are put post-nasally, like in Chandam or Kambi, Ambalam. So when it occurs after M, that is after nasal, it would become, a burr-like. It will become mridu. It will become a mridu. Then you have Ushmakal, which are the fricatives. That is, they involve ardha sparsham. They involve ardha sparsham. Those are named as Ushmakal in the Malayalam grammatical tradition. Now, Ushmakal, actually speaking, what it expresses is the fact that when you produce these sounds like sh, sh, and s, you can hear a kind of hissing noise. These are sounds, these are fricatives, where when you articulate them, you can hear a hissing noise, that is kind of noise. That is, even when you are located quite at a distance from a person, that is when you are even standing outside a room. So you when people are within the room, if people are speaking, you can still hear. Of course, you will not be hearing everything that they speak, but then you can, when they produce these Ushmakal, the hissing noise would be audible even from outside the room, right? So that is generally one of the sound qualities associated with this Ushmakal. Ushmakal in English they call them as sibilants. It's a variety among fricatives. I think I am, given the allotted time, I think I am towards the end of the class. Yeah, if you talk about, yeah, I already told you about intervocalic voicing and post-nasal voicing, then yeah, among nasals in Malayalam, there is something special. There are some nasals which are identified to be dental as well as alveolar. But then, of course, Rajaraja Varma had proposed to separate symbols for them, but then it did not catch up in the language. The reason could be that the difference is not in the awareness of speakers. It doesn't matter. maybe just allophonic, and the difference between dental nasal and alveolar nasal is found in a very few words, like maybe panni and kanni. If you take in panni, na is dental, whereas in kanni it would be alveolar, right? So usually when you have in an initial nasal, it is dental, and if it is geminated nasal, if it is double nasal, it is alveolar. It's uh, one. It is dental, and yeah, if it is non-initial imposition, the nerve turns out to be alveolar, pani. But nerves, whenever they are in any initial position of the word, and also whenever it gets generated, generally they are all dental in position. Okay. So thank you. I think I will wind up. I will just end my talk here, and